Hello, everybody, and welcome to F1 Unhinged, the unapologetic F1 podcast. I am your co host, Josh.
And I'm Tyler.
And today we join you live for the first time ever as Tyler sits here and has me in an echo chamber. That is
I'm
wonderful.
sorry. All right, we're good.
Leave it to
We're
Tyler.
doing it. We're doing a new
Technical
thing. We're doing a new thing.
The smart kid is always the one who messes up. That's the way that this is. So today, we got a lot to talk about. Mr. McLaren fan over there. Which I'm surprised to see a smile on your face at all, because if I was a McLaren fan, I would just be sitting in a ball of fire. But maybe this is all fine moment.
No, it's not all fine. I have a smile on my face because we're doing something cool. We're live right now, on Twitch. But as a McLaren fan, I am not very happy. I have a lot to say. I think the strategy was complete shit. I think the overall handling of their driver lineup is complete shit. And given McLaren does McLaren things sometimes, Max could very well still win this championship.
I think that's the worrying thing for McLaren. It's like that meme, champion Max Verstappen isn't real. Champion Max Verstappen standing right behind you. Like, this was over. Max was 104 points behind Piastri. He has made up that entire gap and now has a gap on Piastri. This is ridiculous. There is no excuse. There is nothing for the mismanagement that this has been, because it is mismanagement. They still have the fastest car.
It's just terrible strategy.
How many times are they going to lose a race where they're the fastest team?
Not nearly as many. Well, actually, that's wrong. Far more times than Red Bull would.
And that is the insanity of this situation. They by far had the fastest two cars. There is no question. They were much better. And they managed to strategize themselves out of it. Because, yeah, Max put a decent lap in that got him P2. But Lando didn't. Lando's lap in qualifying wasn't that great. And that let Max have a chance to pass him. Now, granted, Lando was still ahead of him. But Lando should have had pole if his lap was a little less scruffy. But regardless, Max gets him into turn one with a great move. Honestly, great move on the outside. Good. Had a really good getaway. Did the things he needed to. Slotted himself in a second. The brain fart to not at least bring one of their drivers in.
It's just absolutely dumbfounding.
It's Ferrari levels of stupidity. It's at that point now where they are the meme of the clowns on the pit wall, not Ferrari. Because the fact that they couldn't risk giving one of their drivers a lesser strategy meant they gave both their drivers the lesser strategy.
That's true.
One of the two should have pit. At worst, one of them needed to pit.
The fact that neither of them did is really what cost them the most.
Yeah, because then the whole field pit behind them.
Every single car. All 18 other cars pitted.
Which then meant Max lines up behind them, not needing an extra pit stop like they did.
Yeah, and he pitted a second time a few laps later, and he had an 18-second lead.
Here's the problem with what they did. And honestly, they're lucky. They're extremely lucky that Fernando Alonso exists. If Fernando Alonso doesn't form a DRS train that nobody could get around, I don't know if Lando gets a top 5. It was only because Fernando was able to keep so many faster cars behind that they were able to slot out just in front of him. If you remember, they were just in front of Alonso. If he's not holding up the faster cars behind, they both have a lot more to overtake than they did.
That is true.
And even with that, you now put yourself in a situation to where any incident on track loses you the championship. It doesn't even have to be a catastrophic incident. Just something that means you finish fourth. And now your championship's over. And now you also put yourself in a really awkward situation. Because you don't want to show favoritism to drivers, right? What happens if Lando's in fourth and Oscar's in third? You then need Oscar to move out of the way so Lando doesn't lose his driver's championship.
Yeah.
As a McLaren fan, how are you going to feel about that?
As somebody that has always kind of hated the papaya rules thing, I think I'd be okay with it, given the fact that Lando's leading the championship and Oscar's behind. Now, if the roles were reversed and Oscar was leading and Lando was behind, I'd be okay with them giving Oscar preferential treatment.
But do you think they'd actually do that? Do you think they'd do that
Fuck
if the roles
no.
were reversed?
Fuck no. No, papaya rules.
Here's the other fucked up thing. What if Oscar loses because of the points he lost giving up the spot in Monza? Because there is a very realistic chance that he could lose the championship by that points gap.
Yeah, I don't know.
I can tell you Piastri's side isn't very happy.
Yeah, no.
And
Not
they're
at
not
all.
even trying to hide it anymore. And I understand, because the team trying to constantly play fair just cost one of their drivers a chance. Now the only way Oscar wins is pretty much if Lando doesn't finish. Because the idea of Lando finishing 7th, 8th place probably doesn't happen if Lando's not in an incident.
Yeah. Well,
And
but also
an incident to require a car that fast to finish that far down is probably a race-ending incident.
yeah. And I mean, I had said this pre-show. The whole papaya rules like fair play thing isn't actually fair. By playing fair for the team, they are being unfair to each driver on their team.
100%.
And it doesn't make any sense. Like, I don't know if there's another team on the grid that doesn't have a number one driver.
And the problem with getting involved in this kind of way, you know, Lando had a lot to say about Max saying he'd have won the championship already in a McLaren. And aside from the obvious reasons that I'm going to say that's damn true, which is Max is just a better driver in general, I think there's also another reason, which is, and we've talked about this before already, both podcasting and off podcast. There is zero chance in hell Max is following any of those orders. Max
Absolutely
is not giving up a position in Monza. If Max thinks he's supposed to pit in that situation, he's not going to not pit so that it doesn't hurt his teammate. The reason why Max would have won the championship already is he would have never let this lead falter in this way. Because think about it last year when the lead started going away. Max dug deep and scrapped every point he possibly needed to make sure that gap was there. And when there was a time for a killing blow, Max delivered it. When in Vegas he could have been over the top, he instead just got the points that he needed. And I don't believe that mentality existed with the McLaren drivers. It's kind of what we talked about last year with Sainz at Ferrari. How him and Leclerc kept getting horrible strategies, and eventually Sainz was just like, no, this is what I'm doing. This is the strategy we're doing. And he started getting better results when he was the one making decisions. At some point, one of these McLaren drivers have to do that, but Zach Brown has created such a toxic culture there that if you speak out, you are speaking out against the factory and the whole thing of McLaren. He's basically built a mini Ferrari that is now having the same problems that Ferrari has, where you're not allowed to question management or any decisions. And that's how you kill a dynasty. And they didn't even get to be a dynasty yet before they killed it.
Well,
At least Ferrari was a dynasty.
I don't even think McLaren drivers have a choice, because it's Zach Brown ruling the helm of it. It's like, hey, papaya rules. You have to follow this, because we both know. Lando's comment immediately after the race was, I just want to go back to bed. And Oscar obviously wasn't happy. Oscar's manager and family wasn't happy. Lando's family wasn't happy. Neither driver wants to necessarily abide by these stupid fucking rules.
100%.
So it's literally just a fact of McLaren trying not to favor a driver. And in some cases they have. There have been many cases where people have speculated that they favored Lando or Oscar, but these rules don't need to exist. They're going to cost you everything you've literally spent hundreds of millions of dollars to get to. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and you can feel the boiling point coming. And look, I have said it for a good month now when we had the conversation on who we thought would win. I still stick by what I said. I still think Lando's going to win this. I think it's too much to overcome. Max needed a better Brazil. When he gave back some points at Brazil, I thought, that's difficult. And you're in a situation right now where you need Lando to finish fourth, and he won this race by 50 seconds last year. That's going to be really tough. As good as Mercedes has been lately, that's going to be tough. You need Oscar and a Mercedes to finish ahead of him. And I just don't know if I see that. And you need Max to win, which I don't know if I see that. Because the McLaren is that much better at Abu Dhabi. That's always been a track Red Bull's had issues at. And
not with Hennis Smith being on the podium.
Well, that's the thing, is Red Bull's going to need something crazy to happen. Red Bull can't have a straightforward race and win. So I still think Lando's going to win. But can you imagine the hell that will come from if Max wins this championship? This will be the worst season in the history of F1 for McLaren. This will go, they will make documentaries about this failure.
It'll be in textbooks.
This will be the biggest collapse in the history of modern motorsport. The asinine lead that they had, not just one driver had over Max, but both their drivers had a pretty big lead. One just happened to be massive. But to piss away 104 points to the slower car, this would be a catastrophe.
It really would be, honestly. And I think Drive to Survive will have a pretty large percentage of view time based on how McLaren fumbled it if they lose.
Drive to Survive would have to do what they did for the 2021 season, where they might have to release the season minus 2 episodes that they add a month later, because they have to make brand new episodes just for how the season ends.
Yeah.
And I think what makes this 10 times worse is the regulation change. We don't know if McLaren's going to have another opportunity to do this. It could be another 20 years. No one knows who is going to be a top team in this new rule change.
That is true.
And to possibly let this slip through your fingers. You won the drivers or the constructors championship over a month ago. You had 6 races left when you clinched that. There is no reason why somebody else should be fighting for the drivers championship in with your drivers.
Unless it starts with a duh.
And I think the scariest thing about that is how loose, relaxed, and happy Max is.
It's crazy. He doesn't seem like he's battling for a title. He doesn't. And maybe it's just the exterior media side of him.
I don't think you can fake being that happy.
That's true. I mean, he just had a kid, like, what, 3 months ago?
He looks genuinely content with whatever happened. Like, I can't remember the last time I saw this kind of happiness in Max's eye. Maybe when he broke the record for most wins in a row. He was pretty happy that day. And I mean, he was pretty happy when he won the fourth title. Like he was more emotional than I expected, but he was really happy. I don't remember seeing him this consistently happy, even when the car's not doing well. He's just like, oh, we'll figure it out.
Yeah. It's a far cry from last season.
Yeah, and I think it makes it worse for McLaren because Zach Brown keeps trying to antagonize and try to get under Max's skin the way he could get under Horner's. And Max is just making fun of it.
That's not going to work.
And it's backfiring hard because now you have one of my favorite exchanges of the weekend was Zach Brown making the quote about it being like a horror movie where this guy that you think is dead just keeps showing up. And Max at his press conference was like, well, he can call me Chucky. And it was just the most hilarious moment because he's just feeding into it at this point where it's just like he's having fun poking Zach Brown in the corner for their mistakes. And he's having fun taking these little jabs and pot shots and just funny little things. And McLaren are getting so worked up over every one of them. Like look at how visibly upset Lando was at the comment Max made about he'd have clinched the title already in the McLaren. And I thought it was funny because like Max doesn't know what he's talking about. It's like, well, he has 4 of them, so how many you got?
Well, according to the F1 website, last night or the night before, Lando already has a championship.
Yeah, I did look before we came on, and I did see that they had made the correction. But
did they fix it?
It is hilarious.
Well, Kim Illman, who is like one of the sport's biggest content creators, not only content creators, he does a lot of professional photo work for them, had to make a video about it before they realized they fucked it up.
Yeah.
Where it said that Lando has won 1 championship so far.
It'll be just outside of just being a Max fan and being happy if Max gets his 5th in a row, I just want to see the devastation from if McLaren fails.
Ouch.
Because it's deserved. It's deserved because Zach Brown has become everything that he said Christian Horner was.
That's fair.
And look, it's obvious by now Christian Horner being gone was the catalyst that was needed. But I don't think I'll ever forgive Zach Brown for his role in it. I will always harbor a bit of hatred for him.
What about Toto's role in it, though?
I'm fine with Toto. You know why? Because Toto has such a deep history with Christian that their rivalry, I understand it.
It was more natural. It was a more natural rivalry.
Yeah. Toto came up driving GT cars for Red Bull. I can at least understand their long-form history and rivalry that they have. And they never went too far. They never went too personal. And when the FIA tried to make it personal, let's not forget Christian was one of the first people that spoke up for Toto and Susie Wolff. Let's not forget that part. That when Red Bull could have piled on in a way that, let's be frank, McLaren would have done to Red Bull, Christian stepped up and was like, nah, personal attacks are too far. This is too much. This feels like a vendetta. We're not a party to this. So there was at least some, despite how intense that rivalry went, there was still respect. There was no respect in what Zach Brown did, in the things Zach Brown said, and the things Zach Brown tried to start and did start within Red Bull. And forever fuck him for that.
I mean, as a McLaren fanboy, I'm not proud to have Zach as our team principal or CEO, but more so team principal. So, I agree with that, 100%.
Which I think is how I felt towards the end of the Horner thing. Like, some of his controversies did put a stain on Red Bull that I wanted to go away because it painted Red Bull in a light that I know isn't what exists inside that company.
I will say, though, do you know who painted somebody in a terrible light this weekend?
Ooh, I hope you're talking about Carlos Sainz.
Absolutely. Absolutely, he crushed it. Absolutely crushed it.
You know, everyone thought I was crazy when I was worried about Lewis and Ferrari. I wanted it to succeed bad because I do like Lewis. In a similar thing to the Toto and Lewis, or Toto and Christian, Max and Lewis always felt like a rivalry that didn't get personal. In some ways, there was always respect shown. Even in 2021, when Max won his title in a way that had to suck for Mercedes, let's be real, Lewis showed respect. And Max has shown respect towards Lewis since then, when he's been, I think, sometimes unduly criticized by media.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I wanted Lewis and Ferrari to work. I really did. But it's not. It's not working. And
I mean, is Lewis and Charles working, or is Charles and Ferrari working more so?
better than Lewis and Ferrari. Lewis is
fair.
over here doing his best Yuki Tsunoda. And in which case, Yuki actually had a much better week than Lewis. He outqualified Max in the sprint. He got points in both the sprint and the race. Lewis didn't score anything. Pointless weekend for Lewis Hamilton and a Q1 exit. It's getting worse. And you can tell by his team radio. It's not working. It's not jiving in the team. Lewis is not fitting into Ferrari the way I think he thought he would.
I think it's the opposite. I think Lewis isn't fitting into Ferrari the way Ferrari thought he would fit. Truthfully,
both can be true statements, honestly.
I mean, you're going into Fatosi. Like a lot of Formula One drivers dream of racing in red
until they get
there. But I think Ferrari had more hope that their team could mesh with Lewis Hamilton, who was a 7-time world champion, than Lewis had ambitions of Ferrari being able to mesh with him.
Well, I think the problem is Ferrari doesn't have an identity anymore.
Well, Ferrari is a business bloke at this point. Like they have the chairman saying, "Hey, stop talking."
When multiple people who have raced for Ferrari are saying it's the chairman's fault they're this bad.
Exactly. I think it's a higher end issue than it is the driver issue. Because even Leclerc has definitely done better than Hamilton this season, but Leclerc hasn't raced nearly his potential this season.
No, we're going to get the first Ferrari winless season.
Yeah.
In quite a while.
Yeah. And that can't just be the drivers. That can't just be the car. It can't just be the engineers.
No, because we know that these are two quality drivers.
Yeah. Honestly, the best of the best.
And I think the way they made Sainz look versus how Sainz looks now is proof that it wasn't the drivers. Because Sainz was good enough to be there.
Yeah.
He's taken Williams to 2 podiums. 2. And Williams.
And he got P3 on a track that isn't even a F1 track. It's a MotoGP track. That's why there was that 2-stop rule.
One that has notoriously been a problem for Williams. High speed corners like that are wind affected are not usually Williams' strong point. And he took it to P3. Granted, some of that P3 was on a really bad strategy by McLaren, but he was still there, ahead of Mercedes, ahead of Ferrari, and he's had a better season at Williams than he was going to have at Ferrari this year. And he gets to literally be the none of my business meme in real life. And it's making Ferrari looked bad because the one excuse we had for why it was going so bad for Hamilton was the excuse we kind of had for most of the grid, which is these cars are really difficult and each car is extremely different. So it takes a long time to get used to them, which is why every driver who was coming to a new seat struggled when they got. But those drivers are now the ones that we thought would outperform teammates are. Outside of Ocon, who has struggled with Behrman, but Behrman is just good, and that's just what it is. Ollie Behrman is that good. So that's not necessarily a bad thing for Ocon. But again, it's a new car for Ocon, too. It's new for both of them. But now you have these guys adjusting to new cars who are doing better. Lawson is doing really good now. Lawson got points again when Hadger didn't. Lawson is looking really solid. You have Bortoletto having on and off weekends, but Hulkenberg also looking really good in that Sauber. Like, other people are making adjustments that for whatever reason Ferrari can't seem to make. Ferrari are just as off pace as they've been all year.
It's terrible to see, but also probably pretty good for the championship. So,
well, it would be better for the championship if they were involved. Honestly, it would make it even crazier.
It would, yeah, 100%. But as a McLaren fan, it makes it better for the championship.
Well, I mean, think about it this way. Last year, they were fighting with McLaren for the championship. Now this year, they can't even finish up high enough on the grid to impact the championship. Notice we didn't talk about Lando finishing behind a Ferrari as a way for Max to win. No, it's only a Mercedes and honestly a Williams.
And the only time a Ferrari has got a podium is when Lando or Oscar was P1.
And they can't seem to get one without somebody else failing. They can't get one on pace. And it's a disaster. It is an absolute disaster for Ferrari. And the fact that they keep blaming everything but their horrible mismanagement of the team tells you that it's not going to get any better. Their one hope is building a good engine, but have they learned enough lessons of their failures to actually do that? I'm not convinced. If you held a gun to my head and told me pick who does better next year, Audi or Ferrari?
Audi.
I think that's who I'd pick.
I'm saying that because next year I switched to an Audi fan, but also it's 100% true.
Here's the true level of embarrassment. We're in a brand new rule change. No old parts. No old anything. Everything you share has to be the same. What does Ferrari do if Cadillac comes in and they're better, using the Ferrari engine? What happens then? Haas has never really been able to say that because Haas has always had a second-rate car. We know Cadillac's not coming in with their Salvation Army parts. They're coming in trying to do something big.
I mean, you can see it. They post videos on their YouTube channel. They did a documentary style video of a night where they did like testing, but it was virtual.
Yeah,
and
it was the race prep and all that.
Yeah. We talked about it last week. You talked about it last week a little bit, and I watched it, and it's incredible, absolutely incredible.
And just that alone is more infrastructure than Haas has ever had. So they're not coming in on a budget the way that Haas is, and that is kind of saved Ferrari from embarrassment. But can you imagine if Cadillac comes in using the Ferrari engine and is better than Ferrari? It's bad enough Ford's coming in with Red Bull. And Ford and Ferrari have a long history of absolutely hating each other's guts.
Yes.
It's going to be tough enough if Ford and Red Bull build a really good engine that Ferrari's not ahead of. But can you imagine if Cadillac joins using a Ferrari engine and they finish higher in the championship than
Ferrari itself?
And it tells you how bad things are going at Ferrari that neither of us are saying that's impossible.
I think before we get off this topic, we need to give Carlos a little bit more butter on that bread.
Oh, yeah.
Because, we spent the whole time talking about Ferrari and this and that. Carlos dragging that Williams to third, that was A+.
So if we go outside of my Max Verstappen glazing for 5 minutes, outside of Max Verstappen, I think Carlos Sainz is my driver of the year.
I'd agree with that.
To be where he is, given the start to the year that he had, where it seemed like anything bad can and will happen directly to Carlos Sainz, whether it was his own mistakes or car failures, it seemed like everything bad was happening to Carlos. And to now be as high as he is in the standings, and to have now multiple races where he is on the podium, and the races he's not, he's still competitive. He has at least got to be in the running for being considered driver of the year.
Absolutely.
Like for me, it'd be him and Behrman are my two guys that I look at that just have outperformed anything I expected from them this year.
Not Hadjar?
That's a good shout. That is a good shout.
It could be a three-way thing.
They should all three be in consideration.
Yeah.
I can't quite put Gabby there because Gabby has had some really scruffy ones as well, where I just feel like he, especially the last couple races, has really been like, had the really bad wreck in Brazil, finished behind Hulkenberg this week, never really looked like that guy. He's just very inconsistent in a way that I don't think Behrman has been. So, I think that's a fair three. Sainz, Behrman, and Hadjar. I think that's a good three to be like, these guys have been really impressive.
Absolutely, yeah. I would agree with that. 100%. You know who has not been impressive, though? You gotta let me say it. Yuki Tsunoda.
The fact that him scoring a single point was like, ooh, Yuki scored a point, is why he's gonna be in endurance racing or IndyCar next year.
Honestly, next year? Really?
Well, he sure as hell ain't gonna be in F1.
I don't think he'll land a seat in the series next year.
I do. Honda's got a lot of power in WEC, so he could get a WEC seat. I know there's already been talks with IndyCar teams as a possibility of there is nothing on earth that could scare me more than the idea of Yuki Tsunoda at the Indy 500.
I feel like Indy has enough bad F1 talent signing Mick Schumacher.
Yeah, but don't forget, Honda has engines in Indy, and Honda loves them. If he's going to get a seat somewhere, it's because Honda's throwing some money at somebody.
It wouldn't be the first time they threw money at somebody. Red Bull.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's why I think he's probably going to end up in IndyCar. It just terrifies me of him on an oval and the high-speed accident he's going to eventually be in. Because let's be real, does anyone on planet Earth see Yuki Tsunoda making it through an Indy 500?
No.
He's going to wreck quicker than Kyle Larson did.
And that says a lot, because Kyle is actually a good driver. Speak for myself, because you don't like Kyle Larson.
In certain series. Maybe
you don't like Kyle Larson most of the time, but I like Kyle Larson. So
the fact he won the title this year pisses me off.
Boy.
Yeah. Should have been Denny's. Now they're going to change the points because of it.
I mean, it should have been
well,
Denny's.
If there is a NASCAR.
I really wanted it to be Denny's championship, but it was Denny, Larson, and Gibbs. So the fact that one of my three
Gibbs
drivers
never had a chance. I was hoping Reddick would have a shot, but that ended up not coming. I mean, of course, if it was my choice, it would have been Bubba. His boss destroying his car. Maybe that was the karma that made Denny lose.
So now that we had this little break in F1, given that we have an off season coming up, if you want us to talk about NASCAR and the NASCAR drama a little bit more than we have already, let us know. Let us know in the comments. Let us know wherever you can let us know. We have a website. You can email us, comment YouTube video, whatever.
I'm sure now that the trial is about to start, they are doing jury selection starting today, I believe. I think the trial starts on the 8th, if I'm correct. So I'm sure we will talk about some details in that once the F1 season's over. The F1 season ends kind of perfectly for when the trial starts. So I'm sure we're going to share some news on that and what happens, because I have a feeling whatever it is going to be monumental. Either way, whoever loses this case is going to sustain possibly irreparable damage.
For sure. 100%.
And on that subject of irreparable damage, we go back to Yuki and the fact that it seems he has created some irreparable damage, because it has been said by Mekis himself that tomorrow, Tuesday, there will be an announcement made. And that announcement will be who the new driver lineup is. And pretty much every source in the know has said the same thing, which is Yuki Tsunoda out, Isaac Hadjar in, Arvid Lindblad promoted to Racing Bulls, and Yuki Tsunoda completely without a drive for 2026.
Which is about what we expected it to be.
And I think it's fair. Mekis was a supporter of Yuki. He got a fair chance. I feel like he got a fair chance. Mekis was not going to do anything to hurt Yuki. And maybe the car hurts Yuki. Maybe Max outperforming the car hurts Yuki. But the fact is, you can't be a Red Bull driver and struggling to get a single point.
Especially being this many points behind.
Yeah. Max is a one-man team.
You can be a Red Bull driver and struggle for a few races, but I had it pulled up on my phone, but this was ages ago at this point.
Do you know his highest finishing position was in the sprint race this week?
Really?
And that was only because of a penalty to Antonelli. He got that 5th because of a penalty to Antonelli. And 5th is his highest finishing position.
He got 4 points.
In a sprint race. 5th place was his highest finishing position as a Red Bull driver.
But how did he finish directly behind Max?
Because Antonelli got a penalty.
That's fair. Yuki was 19.3 seconds off of Max,
who he started in front of. And
yes,
admittedly probably didn't fight Max at all. But
and Max was 9 seconds off Oscar. So Yuki was 28 seconds off of the lead. That's insane.
It's not good enough.
No, it's really not.
You can't constantly be a half lap or more behind your teammate in the same car. I don't care how good Max is. At some point, you just run out of excuses. Who cares that he can drive the car in those conditions?
I mean, Yuki's at least in 15th place now. The last time we talked about him, he was in...
I think he was 18th or some 17th,
yeah,
18th.
17th, 18th, yeah.
Is he at least ahead, is he ahead of Lawson yet?
No. So behind him is Ocon, your favorite person on the planet, Lance Stroll.
Who has had the most unlucky 2 weeks ever. Jeez.
Pierre Gasly, Gabriel Bortoletto, Franco Colapinto, and then Jack Doohan, who has not raced since April.
It's just not good enough. I don't care how bad that car is.
Lawson is in 14th. Lawson is 5 points ahead of him.
Well, I don't see Yuki getting 5 points this week, so he'll stay there. There's no excuse. I don't care how bad the car is. I don't care that Max is able to do things with it that Yuki isn't. There's just no excuse.
We obviously know Hadjar is moving up to Yuki's seat at Red Bull. Lawson has a seat at Racing Bulls next season then, right?
Yeah. Yeah. From everything that I've seen and everything that I've heard, Lawson has earned himself another year. I think his bounce back this second half of the year really helped him. He has had a really good second half of the year. He has had a few races like this week where he actually finished ahead of Hadger. And I think that has helped him. He needs to clean up his driving standards a little bit. But Red Bull will always prefer an over-aggressive driver to one who sits behind and doesn't pass. Red Bull will always favor an aggressive driver. They don't really care.
Absolutely.
And which is why they like Lindblad so much. He's fast, he's aggressive, he's raw. And it's a good situation to bring Lindblad into to let him get his feet wet. This is one of those times where they actually get to use the junior team as it's meant to be. Bring this guy in who is not ready to be in a top car. Let him learn the way that they let Max learn. Like people forget that. Max got a whole year and a couple races to learn. Max came in fast but reckless.
Let's hope that works. Because Red Bull the last few years has not done the fast but reckless thing.
Yeah. I'm really hoping that they give Arvid two... I'd like to see Arvid get 2 years in that. Give him 2 years in a Racing Bull. By then, you'll know what you have. Maybe he does 3 if Max decides...
I'm not talking about Racing Bulls, though. I'm talking about Red Bull proper.
Yeah, but give him 2 years before you even try to put him in a... Give Arvid 2 years in a Racing Bull before you try to do anything.
So are they keeping Hadjar in the seat for 2 years then? Because that's what I'm talking about, is like, they can't discard Hadjar like they discarded Lawson, like they discarded
Well, yeah, you're going to have to let Hadjar sit in that seat too. But I think if you get rid of... Say Red Bull at the end of the year decide they don't want Hadjar. I think they're better off either going for a driver that's already on the grid or going back to Lawson. Arvid should be the last person considered for that seat.
The fact that we consider him a human bowling ball is...
Well, it's just... It's a lot. Being in that seat's a lot. And it was a lot before it was the being next to Max seat. Which is why they gave Max time for it.
But they didn't give anybody else time for it.
Max had an entire year before he had to step into that seat.
We've got 7 minutes left. They didn't give Lawson the same time that they gave Max. How do you expect them to give somebody else the same time that they gave Max?
I'm hoping it's because they learned from what they fucked up with Lawson.
I've been hoping that for 3 years now.
But the way that they're acting now makes me think that they did.
I mean, they have Meckies now, so it's not Horner.
I don't think they realized how fucked that car was when they threw Lawson in. So I think the quick yank on Lawson was thinking that Lawson was that far over his head. Because I know he wasn't a consensus pick in Red Bull. Not everybody was on the same page about him being there. Because not everybody wanted to get rid of Checo.
That is true. But also Checo started blowing it.
I think that's what hurt Lawson in the beginning, is right away you could tell there is something wrong with this car. But they thought it was something is wrong with Lawson. So they put Yuki in, and immediately you can tell, like, oh, we fucked up.
It's not a Lawson problem.
Yeah, where it's like, oh, he's now finishing behind his old car. Shit. We fucked up. And I think part of that is when Christian got fired, I think they finally started listening to Max about the car. Because a lot gets said about listening to Checo about what was wrong with the car. But Max was saying the same things were wrong with the car, just nobody fucking listened. And you notice Meckies is listening to Max a lot more about what's wrong with the car. And that's why they're able to fix things. That car was atrocious in the sprint. It won the race.
That's fair.
That's listening to your drivers now. I think Mekis is the big change. You got an engineer at the head of the team. The engineer is going to listen to the driver. And by certain points in the season, Adrian knew he wasn't involved anymore, and he was the engineer who listened to the drivers.
That's
and
fair.
I think that's where a lot of the disagreement came from with that whole situation. And I hope now, with the patience that Red Bull seems to be exuding under new leadership, that lesson has been learned. That all of the things have to combine. No driver on this grid is horrible. Everyone has talent. That's how they got here. Even the ones we don't like, they have talent. Lance Stroll won championships. Every driver on this grid is good and have won things in their life, in their career. Nobody's sitting up here as a slow dude who doesn't deserve to be here. There's no more Nikita Mazepins on the grid. So if a driver is struggling that much, it's not just the driver. And I think Red Bull are finally on that thought.
All right. Well, before we close, I think it's important to announce that we stream live now our podcast on Twitch. So you can watch it live as it happens, or it'll be available on your favorite podcasting platform on Wednesdays. So yeah.
And we started doing this specifically because we wanted to figure out a way to be able to do Abu Dhabi this year live. We won't do that for most races, but because of what this race is and what it means in the championship deciding, we didn't want people to have to wait till Monday to see our reactions. So we were going
Wednesday, technically.
Yeah, for real. So we're going to attempt, and I will say attempt as much as I can, to do a live stream of the race for Abu Dhabi on Sunday morning for us. And hopefully it works, and we can share in whatever in the world happens with all of you and do a nice little watch along to the race, all of us together.
Absolutely. But also, on top of that, every Monday night now, we should be live on Twitch.
Yeah, that is the plan going forward. In the process of discovering how the hell to do this, we discovered that we could just do this every week. So every Monday we'll be live on Twitch. As Tyler said, episodes will go up on all the streaming platforms and YouTube on Wednesday. So that schedule will stay as normal, but now if you want to see us idiots live, we'll be here on Twitch every Monday. And we'll make sure to put up a schedule of it, of starting time and everything on our socials and on our website so that you guys know when everything's starting and what the schedule's going to be.
Yep, absolutely.
Perfect. And that'll be it for today. We will see everybody bright and early Sunday morning for the season finale, Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Thanks so much for everybody tuning in for F1 Unhinged. I'm Josh.
I'm Tyler.
Thank you so much for tuning in.